An Explanation of God. By Danny Dutton. Spreading the word of God is important. The following essay comes from an 8-year-old, Danny Dutton of Chula Vista, California. He wrote the essay for his 3rd grade homework assignment. The assignment was to explain God. People have been trying to explain God over the centuries, but this youngster's explanation is far beyond his years. Let's listen to Danny as he speaks on God's behalf. One of God's main jobs is making people. He makes them to replace the ones that die, so there will be enough people to take care of things on earth. He doesn't make grown-ups, just babies. I think because babies are smaller and easier to make. That way he doesn't have to take up his valuable time teaching them to talk and walk. He can just leave that to mothers and fathers. God's second most important job is listening to prayers. An awful lot of this goes on, since some people, like preachers and things, pray at times besides bedtime. God doesn't have time to listen to the radio or TV because of this praying. He hears everything. There must be a terrible lot of noise in his ears, unless he has thought of a way to turn it off. God sees everything, hears everything, and is everywhere, which keeps him pretty busy. So you shouldn't go wasting his time by going over your mom and dad's head asking for something they said you couldn't have. Atheists are people who don't believe in God. I don't think there are any in Chula Vista. At least there aren't any who come to our church. Jesus is God's son. He used to do all the work, like walking on water, and performing miracles and trying to teach the people who didn't want to learn about God. They finally got tired of him preaching to them, and they crucified him. But he was good and kind like his father, and he told his father that they didn't know what they were doing, and to forgive them. His dad, God, appreciated everything that he had done, and all his hard work on earth, so he told him he didn't have to go out on the road anymore. He could stay in heaven. So he did. And now he helps his dad out by listening to prayers, and seeing things which are important for God to take care of, and which ones he can take care of himself without having to bother God. Like a secretary, only more important. You can pray anytime you want, and they are sure to help you, because they got it worked out so one of them is on duty all the time. You should always go to church on Sunday because it makes God happy, and if there's anyone you want to make happy, it's God. Don't skip church or do something you think will be more fun, like going to the beach. This is wrong. And besides, the sun doesn't come out at the beach until noon anyway. If you don't believe in God, besides being an atheist, you will be very lonely, because your parents can't go everywhere with you, like going to camp, but God can. It is good to know He's around you when you're scared in the dark or when you can't swim, and you get thrown into real deep water by big kids. But, you shouldn't just always think of what God can do for you. I figure God put me here and He can take me back anytime He pleases. And that's why I believe in God. In the Gospel of Mark chapter 1 verses 21 to 28, we see Jesus going to the synagogue at Capernaum to teach. He is first interrupted by a man with an unclean spirit. Just because of the interference of the unclean spirit, Jesus didn't stop teaching. He used the man with the unclean spirit to demonstrate his authority to teach. Years later, Danny Dutton first learned about God from his parents, and then by attending church weekly he increased that knowledge, and was able to write this essay about his conception of God. Have you thought as deeply about God as Danny has? Sir, my concern is not whether God is on our side. My greatest concern is to be on God's side. For God is always right. Abraham Lincoln.